Okay, so today I've been wanting to do this video for a while, but the landscape of AI has just changed. I have been looking into AI and I've got a couple of videos that I want to do about it, and I wanted to start with this one. And it's AI chaos, costly big hype, and no killer app. And that's absolutely true for me. I mean, artificial intelligence, first of all, I don't agree with that term, but it is powerful. But for a lot of us, it still feels expensive, confusing, and overhyped. Too many tools trying to capture our attention. The pricing is unclear. They make big promises. It just hasn't really translated into real value for myself and for a lot of people in the industry. So I'm going to do a breakdown here of what AI means, maybe give you some ideas of how to work with AI as a designer, how to go forward with your business. So the first thing is that I do believe that there are too many tools. It reminds me of the days of when the internet was first born. Everybody had a .com, 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 and there was a bubble, and it did pop, they say. And a lot of those companies went by the wayside. They couldn't compete. I think that that's going to continue to happen with AI in the AI space because it's very crowded. Again, like the internet, it's moving fast. They're all competing for our attention. And that's just creating a lot of confusion for a lot of us. ChatGPT, Google Gemini, Anthropic, Claude, and then there's more. There's a lot of tools that are out there that are a little bit more specialized, if you will. Most of these tools also claim that they can do everything. They're going to replace the human. Coders are going to go bye-bye. It's going to cure cancer. It's going to solve the world's economic problems. Governments are trying to race to embrace it, and the Department of War here in the United States just signed a deal. Who's to know where that's going to go? It could be in our defense. There's talk that it's being involved with our grid. They make a lot of promises, but I'm also seeing a lot of videos that say from the engineers that actually code the AI, that develop the AI, and I'm seeing Wall Street investors also speak to the opposite, that it's hit the wall. There is no more room to grow. And even if you make your models and your data set trillions upon trillions of data, first of all, the chips are struggling to store it. Second of all, the money is drying up. The power we just don't have. They're saying that we just don't have the resources to build all the copper we would need for these power generation systems. Just copper alone. And it goes downhill from there. They claim to do everything, but there's also the flip side of that. So with all these tools, I found myself switching from this tool, that tool, because I wanted to see what they could do. What happened was it was just wasting time, and it was interrupting my workflow. And it was unclear, and it's still unclear, which tools are worth my time, money, or the effort that I'm willing to put in to learn the tool. So what do you do? Well, that was the question I asked, and that's why I'm doing this video. First thing I did is I took a look at how I have chosen the tools that I already use. Why did I choose Affinity over the Adobe Suite? Why did I get off the Adobe Suite? I got to tell you, mostly it was because of the sheer costs, and the value was no longer there. At one point, Photoshop was the dominant application. It was the killer app that we all had to have, but it's no longer that. The market has developed tool suites that can do what I need done. So that was the first thing, is why did I get off the Adobe Suite and choose Affinity or Canva? Okay, so I started to look at how I chose my tool suite that I'm already using. And then I started to take a look at what do I need, and I started to research what tools suit my needs. ChatGPT suits my needs to help me write these outlines for these videos. And that's what I did, is I began with one AI tool, ChatGPT, but I tried a lot of the tools for imagery, for video production, audio production. As you know, I've tried Notebook LM, which I like, and that is part of my tool suite. So I tried a lot of them. I tried Claude for code. I tried ChatGPT for code. I tried Google Gemini for code. But I landed on one AI tool for each one of my purposes. So I started small. I limited myself to 2 or 3 AI tools that solve my immediate small problem. If I want to code something, I use Claude. If I want to create an image, I use a different tool. If I want to write an outline, I use ChatGPT. I kind of created a mental cheat sheet for myself. Which tool gave me the outcome I needed? Because I did pay for ChatGPT for a while when I was coding a larger application, thinking that I hit the wall on the free tool. But that leads me to the next issue. The AI pricing is confusing. And how do you control your costs as a small business owner or a freelance designer? The AI pricing models are inconsistent, subscriptions, pay-per-use, token-based. It's hard to predict what a token is going to provide me for a given project. It's not that I can't understand what a token is. What I can't understand is, what does that translate to how many hours that I'm going to get out of it? Where's the value? I ended up overpaying, I believe, because when I was paying for ChatGPT to help me code that one project, I ended up dropping it. I went back to free because it didn't solve the problem. It was still hallucinating, which I will touch on. So I went back to the free and I finished the project. So I literally was overpaying for features that I didn't fully use. I didn't find that their coding model, their latest and greatest coding model, was better than the basic free for my use case. Now, for somebody else's use case, I can't speak to that. But for me specifically, that's what I ran into. Like the days of the internet, I remember when I was first on the internet and I first started designing websites, I had to explain to people what I did for a living. Nobody had heard of the internet. Nobody knew. I would say, I'm a web designer. And they said, what's that? And I said, for the internet. And they said, what's the internet? I remember that at the time, the internet was for people in the business, the engineers, the coders, the designers. It was really our space. And that's kind of what's happening with AI. I feel like the pricing structures are designed by engineers and marketers who are hanging out with those engineers, because it's not for everyday business users. Everyday business users don't have any idea what a token-based AI is going to provide for their business. We're not there yet. So what do? What can we do? Well, like I said, I started with the free version and I went back to the free version. Now, I know that sounds, cheesy. You should pay for something that you use. On the one hand, I agree with that. But on the other hand, while this landscape is in such chaos, I'm going to take advantage of what they're offering. It's up to them to pull the offer. If they want to pull the offer, I'll stop using free. Or if they want to limit the value of it even more and more and more to try to get you to pay, then I'll stop using it and try something else. Because I just don't see how it's going to replace. And I do another video on that, designing after AI. So what it came down to is I upgraded because I thought that the AI was going to save me time or improve my output. And, to a certain extent it did. It did. But it lost track. You give it 5-6 steps deep, especially when it comes to coding, and it just lost itself. It couldn't keep track of the 5 steps. What that taught me is to focus on AI tools that save you time and will improve your output, because ChatGPT helps me with these video outlines. It helps me write communication to people that I need to communicate. It helps me zero in on what's important and what's not important. And the reason I stuck with ChatGPT is because I prefer simple monthly subscriptions. Most people do. When you make your pricing model simple to understand, that people understand the value they're going to get. And right now, AI is not providing the simple subscription that's clear of what you get for what you pay for. And again, it reminds me of the early internet. When I was designing in the 2000s, there was a book that came out that said, "Don't Make Me Think." And it was a huge book for web designers. And the whole idea was, if the user has to think for more than 10 seconds of where they're at, where they need to go to find what they're looking for, then you've lost that user. Don't make the user think. And that's what's happening with AI. Don't make the user think. If they can't understand your pricing in 10 seconds, it's probably not worth it to them. They're going to click off. They're going to go with free. Which leads me to the next point. AI is overhyped. I just saw a video last night of this engineer that said, "Oh, we are in trouble." And it's just like, dude, maybe I've got it completely wrong. But there is a whole group of engineers that are just saying, this is overhype. They're making big promises and the results are small. And that has been my experience. When I limit AI to small tasks, it does great, but they promise to revolutionize productivity. And what I have found is that it improves on small specific tasks. The marketing makes it hard to tell what is actually useful versus what is just hype. So the tools feel optional rather than essential for daily work. That's not a killer app. It's not always clear whether you're paying for real capability or limited features behind a subscription. It's hard to tell. So what do? Well, I use AI for tasks I do regularly. AI has helped me write a lot of these outlines, brainstorming, drafts, and I measure my success with AI in time saved. So what I did is if a tool doesn't save me meaningful time within 30 days, drop it. And that's why I went from one subscription to a different subscription. I had to focus on real workflow improvements, not just a feature list and hype put on their website, because there is no killer app. What is the killer app? You may be asking. What is a killer app? Well, back in the day, killer apps were something like VisiCalc, and I know that's dating me, but it was the precursor to Microsoft Excel. VisiCalc, Lotus 123, then Excel. Not specifically in that order, but close enough. Microsoft Office, I already mentioned Adobe Photoshop, and my favorite that really changed the face of an industry, or created an industry really, was Netscape Navigator. It changed the internet. Microsoft Office changed the way people did office work. Those are killer apps. They became essential, not optional. And we don't have that with AI yet. AI doesn't have a dominant tool everyone depends on. Most AI tools right now solve narrow problems instead of becoming essential systems. And that's absolutely true. I don't see a must-have. I see it's really nice and it's easy, but I don't have to have it. I can write these outlines without AI if I was pushed. I did it before AI. So what do? Well, you create your own killer app, and that's what I've done. I use Notebook LM for specific things. I use ChatGPT for specific things. I use Claude for specific things. I use another AI tool for some imagery that I've created, and that has become my killer app. I'm the killer app using these tools. I also created my own repeatable workflow. AI helps me with the idea and the draft, but it's up to me to refine and publish. But AI does speed up my routine work, writing outlines, helping me refine a bunch of bullet points that I have floating around in my head. I'll feed it into the AI, into ChatGPT, and I say, make this a flow. And it's very good at that because I've given it clear bumpers to stay within. But it has not replaced my expertise. AI just doesn't, it doesn't understand context. It doesn't understand. It grabs like items that are stored in its data set. Most engineers who are building it that I've seen are saying it is a specialized search tool. I also had to save my prompts. Save your prompts. Save your prompts. Because the way you put in your prompt greatly affects what comes out of the AI. If your prompts have a bias in the beginning, that's what the AI is going to feed you, is that bias. So you try to keep your prompts as unbiased as possible. So will AI go mainstream? Maybe. I think the money's going to dry up. Wall Street's going to stop funding it because there isn't the return on investment that was promised to these investors. Their burn rate through their capital is off the charts. Some people are saying that the only players that are going to remain in the AI space are the players that have income coming in from other sources and can afford to go through a high burn rate. Players like Microsoft, Google, but Anthropic and OpenAI, they are investment based only. They don't have a Microsoft Office. They don't have Google Search or YouTube bringing in revenue. to offset the AI costs. They're all in on the AI, and it's through investment dollars that they're surviving. So I think there's going to be less tools and the cream will rise to the surface. I think there's going to be some buyouts and a condensing of the AI space. Also, for it to go mainstream, the pricing has to become more consistent, and you can compare across platforms, apples to apples. Because right now, people don't know if they're comparing apples to oranges or apples to bananas. And mostly, we just don't see a consistent everyday value across our work. And I'll touch on the reason why in the next point. And again, there's no killer app. There's no breakthrough app that makes AI feel essential for everyone. So again, what do? Well, focus on the tools that clearly explain what they do and learn how to use them for your business case. I prefer AI platforms with simple, predictable pricing and clear limitations. I choose the tools that solve my real workflow issues. I'm not blown away by impressive demos. If it cannot help me get done what I need to get done, the demo is useless. And again, you're the killer app. Put these tools together and make you the killer app. You create the value. These tools are merely hammers and screwdrivers and levels. That's all they are. You're still the carpenter, so to speak. And I think another huge problem is AI slop and hallucinations. Not only does AI get it wrong a lot, it gets it wrong at scale, which is a problem I didn't even recognize until I started to put this together. AI is very strong at generating unexpected ideas and combinations. I do not deny that whatsoever. It helps us humans think outside existing workflows and assumptions, and is very useful for exploration and ideation. And that's how I use AI. It helps me with ideas. It helps me bust through assumptions and think outside the box, as they say. But there's also AI slop, and that's high volume, low quality AI generated content that looks polished, but adds little to no real value. And I speak very much on this in my next video about designing after AI. I get into the AI slop. We all know that if you use AI tools, and my wife and I do, and we sit at the dinner table and we talk about it, the hallucinations that AI comes up with. And I've seen statistics anywhere from 5% hallucination rate to 48% hallucination rate. Like I said, I watch a lot of the coders and developers and engineers that are actually building these AI tools. And my wife says, oh my God, that is dry content. I know, but not to me. I find it fascinating. 48%. I just saw that the other day, up to 48%. And then I saw another video after that that said 22%, that AI will confidently state something incorrect or make up information, dates, facts, citations in legal cases, or details. So AI is not just producing insight, it is also producing noise at scale. And this is something I didn't understand until recently. AI, if it gets it wrong, if one AI gets something wrong, the other AIs may suck in that data and get it wrong. And it just grows. So a wrong fact becomes truth because it's been repeated often enough by other AIs. And that grows exponentially. Noise at scale. The challenge is no longer access to information, but now we have to distinguish between what is correct, what is useful, and what is confidently wrong. We have to review. We just don't put our work out there and say, oh, AI, because they sounded confident, nailed it. No. So what do? Well, you treat your AI output as a draft, not a source of truth. Always fact check key claims. My wife and I just went through this. We had some legal and financial stuff that we were dealing with, and we had to double check because the AI was telling us something, and we went to the actual source's website and we had to fact check it. In our particular case, the AI got it correct. But I've heard horror stories of lawyers getting sanctioned and fired because they put citations that didn't exist. So, you never know. I use AI for structure and ideas, not the final authority. Put steps in your workflow to verify the work. So, AI inspires ideas, the human writes and checks, and then the human publishes. Do not let AI do all of that for you. And in fact, I had a conversation with AI, and AI spit that out about 6 months ago when I was first starting on this idea of making this video. AI actually, ChatGPT spit out to me, it said, "We get it wrong all the time. You can't count on us. So you use us to inspire ideas, but don't use us as the final check. You have to write it yourself." The AI said that to me. I was blown away. I showed it to my wife. So avoid publishing AI content at scale without review, especially if you're going to have it in a public-facing or client work. You don't want to give yourself something to your client. In fact, I did that. I did a website and I had AI create the images. And at the bottom of the design, I put a disclaimer that said the AI images are for place holding only to give you an idea of what is possible. Do not, without a disclaimer, I would not put your client work out there. So anyway, that's all I got for today. I hope you learned something. Thanks for stopping by. Hey, and if you like videos like this, leave a comment, like and subscribe. That would be awesome. I would certainly appreciate it. And again, thanks for stopping by. I hope you're having a great day. You take care. All right. Bye-bye.